A heart-wrenching tale of love, betrayal, and hidden secrets unfolds when Jimin confronts the choice that shattered everything. "Why did you choose TAEHYUNG over me?" Jimin's voice cracked, raw and trembling, echoing through the dimly lit rehearsal hall where the scent of sweat and dust clung stubbornly to the air. His fists were clenched so tightly that his knuckles whitened, veins straining as though his body was fighting to contain a storm that words could never tame. TAEHYUNG stood across from him, frozen, his wide eyes reflecting the shattered fragments of the mirror that lined the wall. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, humming with an eerie pulse that made the silence heavier after Jimin's scream. He opened his mouth as if to respond, but no sound came out, only the soft exhale of breath that fogged in the cold air between them. The world beyond those walls was deafening with chaos. Fans were already buzzing online. Snippets of a heated confrontation leaked through trembling hands that had held up phones, capturing too much too fast. The streets outside throbbed with neon light, the city's heartbeat pounding against the thin glass windows as though demanding an answer that neither of them was ready to give. Jimin's chest heaved, every inhale sharp, every exhale broken. He wasn't just fighting with TAEHYUNG, he was fighting with the shadows of his own doubts, the scars of nights spent questioning his worth, the unspoken fear of being left behind. His voice, once soft and melodic, now carried the weight of betrayal. "After everything, after every word, every promise, you chose him. Why?" TAEHYUNG's jaw tightened, his gaze dropping to the floor where their reflections blurred into fractured lines. He wanted to say it wasn't about choice, that fate had twisted its cruel hands around them both, but the truth burned like acid in his throat. Silence became his answer, and that silence struck deeper than any blade could. The rehearsal hall seemed to close in, walls pressing tighter, the mirrors turning into cruel judges reflecting every ounce of their pain. Jimin took a step forward, his tears glistening under the harsh light, carving silent paths down his cheeks. He remembered the late-night conversations, the laughter that used to echo like music, the quiet comfort of a presence that felt unshakable. He remembered, and it tore him apart. "I thought," Jimin's voice faltered, breaking on a whisper that barely reached TAEHYUNG's ears. "I thought you saw me." Outside, the sound of muffled screams grew louder, fans, desperate and confused, unaware of the full story, yet already spinning it into a storm. The world demanded clarity, but in that moment the only truth that existed was raw and unbearable. One heart breaking, another trapped in silence, and the weight of secrets pressing down like a thunderstorm about to break. The rehearsal room door creaked open, a sliver of light spilling in, and with it, the echo of hurried footsteps. The night wasn't over. The confrontation had only just begun, but the fracture in their bond was already spreading like cracks in glass, impossible to ignore. And in the suffocating stillness that followed, the question lingered like smoke in the air, unyielding and devastating. Why him and not me? "Answer me?" Jimin's voice tore through the room, louder now, raw with desperation. His throat ached, yet he refused to stop. His tears, once quiet, now streamed freely, unchecked by pride. His hand trembled as he reached for TAEHYUNG's wrist, but TAEHYUNG pulled back, sharp as if Jimin's touch burned. "I can't," TAEHYUNG whispered finally, the words brittle like shards of glass cutting the air. His eyes, usually calm oceans, now churned with something darker, regret, fear, maybe even guilt. He pressed his lips together as though silence might somehow shield him. Jimin laughed bitterly, the sound hollow, almost frightening in its emptiness. "Ka or woe, you owe me the truth, TAEHYUNG. Do you know what it feels like to stand in the shadows, waiting for scraps of your attention while you gave him everything?" His voice cracked on the last word, the syllable dripping venom yet laced with unbearable pain. The air between them pulsed with tension, heavy and suffocating. The mirrors reflected not idols but fractured men, their faces twisted in anguish, eyes locked in a battle that words could never truly contain. "I didn't choose him," TAEHYUNG said at last, his voice rising, cracking under the weight of his own emotions. "It wasn't like that. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I enjoyed watching you break?" His chest heaved as he spoke, his hands trembling violently at his sides. "I was trying to protect you." Jimin's breath hitched, a sound of disbelief tearing from his throat. He stepped closer until their foreheads nearly touched, his eyes burning with fury and betrayal. "Protect me? By destroying me? By making me feel like I was never enough?" His fingers balled into fists pressed against his own chest as though trying to hold himself together. Outside the door, the muffled sound of voices swelled, fans, staff, someone breathing too close. Rumors had already begun to leak like poison. The walls felt thinner, the world pressing in on them. Taehyung's lips quivered, his hands lifting as though to reach out, then falling helplessly back to his sides. His voice dropped, soft but sharp enough to pierce through Jimin's rage. "If you knew the truth, Jimin, if you really knew, you'd hate me even more." Jimin's body froze, the words cutting deeper than any scream could. He shook his head violently, tears scattering across his cheeks. "Don't you dare do this, don't you dare hide behind riddles, say it, say it." He shoved Taehyung's chest once, twice, the force trembling with frustration, yet Taehyung let him, absorbing the blows as though he deserved them. The rehearsal hall door slammed shut again, this time from the inside. Jungkook stood there, his expression pale, caught between shock and fear. His voice, usually playful, now dripped with urgency. "Stop it, both of you, do you realize what's happening out there? They're tearing each other apart online, fans, reporters, everyone. If they find out what this fight is really about," his words faltered, the unspoken truth hanging thick in the air. Jimin turned to Jungkook, his eyes red and wild, his voice trembling but cutting like ice. "They already know enough, they saw it, the way he looks at him, the way he doesn't look at me." Taehyung's face crumpled, the mask slipping. His voice broke lower, now hoarse. "Jimin, please, you think I didn't notice? Every time you smiled at me like I was your entire world, I noticed. And it killed me because I could." He stopped himself, the unfinished sentence vibrating with danger, with something forbidden that hung between them like an exposed wire sparking in the dark. The room went quiet, but it wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence that vibrated with everything unsaid, the kind that made hearts pound harder than screams. Jungkook swallowed hard, stepping closer as though to pull them apart, but even he knew he was standing in the middle of a battlefield that no one could escape unscarred. And still, beneath the anger, beneath the betrayal, Jimin's voice trembled with something fragile, desperate, almost childlike. "Then why not me, Taehyung, why never me?" Taehyung closed his eyes, his breath shuddering. "Because if I let myself choose you, I would never survive what comes after." The words hung there, final and devastating, while the world outside continued to roar, unaware that inside this room, hearts were breaking in ways that would never fully heal. The room still buzzed with the echo of Taehyung's confession, the words gnawing at Jimin's chest like a relentless tide. The air felt heavy, almost poisonous, suffused with the weight of everything unsaid. Jimin's lips trembled, but his anger refused to crumble into silence. "You think survival excuses betrayal?" he hissed, his voice sharp and trembling. "You think fear justifies breaking me into pieces? I was ready to fight for you, Taehyung. I was ready to burn everything down if it meant standing by your side. And you?" His voice cracked as he jabbed a finger against Taehyung's chest, each touch like a blow. "You left me choking in the dark." Taehyung flinched at the words, his usually steady demeanor unraveling. His hand instinctively rose to grasp Jimin's wrist, but his grip was weak, hesitant, as though terrified that holding too tightly would shatter what fragile connection remained. His voice was ragged. "You don't understand what's at stake. If the truth comes out, it's not just me who falls, it's you, it's all of us. Do you want to see everything we've built torn apart in front of the world?" Jimin yanked his wrist free, his eyes blazing. "What world are you trying to protect, Taehyung? One where we live like ghosts, pretending, lying, hiding behind carefully painted smiles? That's not living, that's drowning." Jungkook, still planted near the door, ran a hand through his hair in frustration, his voice raised in a mix of panic and desperation. "Hyung, stop this, you're both tearing each other apart while people outside are ready to devour us whole. They don't know the full story, but they're already spinning it into something monstrous. Do you want them to destroy you, to destroy us?" But Jimin barely heard him. His whole being was locked onto Taehyung, eyes wet and blazing, searching, demanding. He pushed again, words spilling like fire. "Tell me the truth. Tell me why him. If you're going to break me, at least give me the decency of knowing why." Taehyung's chest heaved, his gaze shifting, torn between rage and sorrow. His voice dropped lower now, dangerous with the honesty he had buried for too long. "Because he's safe, Jimin, because with him I don't feel like I'm risking everything I am. With you," his voice faltered, his throat tightening, but he forced the words out, each one like a blade carving open a wound. "With you I lose control, with you I feel, and feelings like that, they're forbidden for us, they'll ruin everything." Jimin's whole body shook. For a second, silence swallowed the room, then his laugh came, brittle and cruel in its pain. "So you chose the safe option, you chose comfort over love, you chose cowardice." The words slapped harder than any hand could, and Taehyung's face hardened, his jaw clenching. "You think it's that simple? You think I haven't stayed awake every night drowning in guilt? You think I don't hate myself for every second I've stolen from you, every glance, every touch that meant too much?" His voice cracked now, his anger collapsing under the weight of his grief. "Don't you dare call me a coward, Jimin. I'm bleeding just as much as you are." The tension snapped like a whip, both men breathing hard, their eyes wild, their voices raw from too many words that couldn't be unsaid. Jungkook finally stepped between them, his hands raised, his voice stern for once. Enough, if you keep this up there won't be anything left to save. Not your bond, not the group, not even yourselves. His eyes flicked between them, sharp and full of something unspoken, as though he knew more than he wanted to admit. Jimin's gaze snapped to Jungkook, suspicion flickering through his tears. You knew, didn't you? All this time you knew what was happening between us. The younger man stiffened, his throat bobbing as he struggled to form words. His silence spoke volumes. Jimin's voice turned venomous. And you said nothing, you watched me break night after night and you said nothing. Jungkook's voice was hoarse when it finally emerged, almost a whisper. Because it wasn't my secret to tell, and because I was afraid too. The admission struck Jimin like another betrayal layered on top of the first. His chest tightened, his breaths shallow. He backed away, eyes darting between TAEHYUNG and Jungkook as if the ground beneath him was collapsing. You were both against me, Jimin whispered, almost too softly to hear. I was the only fool who thought love could survive in this place. His knees nearly buckled, but pride held him upright, trembling. TAEHYUNG stepped forward, desperate now, his voice breaking. No, Jimin, don't twist it. You're not the fool, you're the only one brave enough to be honest. That's why He stopped himself, teeth sinking into his lip, his hands curling into fists. Why you what? Jimin demanded, his tears glistening under the harsh light. Why you love me, why you're too weak to admit it, why you'll keep hiding until there's nothing left of us but ashes. The words sliced open the last barrier, and for a fleeting second, TAEHYUNG's eyes revealed everything, love, desperation, and fear so raw it nearly drowned them both. But then, just as quickly, he buried it again behind silence. The rehearsal hall felt like a graveyard, littered with broken words and shattered loyalties. Jimin's sobs echoed softly, a melody of heartbreak that no one dared to interrupt. Jungkook looked away, unable to face the wreckage of truths half-spoken. And TAEHYUNG, still standing, still silent, knew that whatever choice he made next would not just tear the group apart, it would tear their very souls in two. The night outside pressed like a storm against the glass, shadows stretching long and restless, the hum of the city drowned by the thunder within the rehearsal hall. Jimin's tears still clung to his lashes, but his voice no longer trembled with fragility. It was sharp, demanding, forged in the fire of betrayal. You think silence will save you? Jimin spat, packing in a tight circle as though the walls were closing in. His footsteps echoed against the mirrored floor, every sound a reminder of their entrapment. You think hiding behind half-truths and guilt makes you noble? No, TAEHYUNG, it makes you a liar. TAEHYUNG's shoulders stiffened, his fists clenched at his sides. I never lied to you. You lied every single time you looked at me like I was the only one and then walked away. Jimin's voice rose to a scream, his chest heaving. He was shaking so hard he nearly stumbled, but fury kept him upright. Do you know what it feels like to live in your silence, to watch you give him the words you never gave me? The mention of him was enough to twist the knife deeper. TAEHYUNG's jaw worked, his lips parting, but he hesitated, the truth caged in his throat. Jungkook stood rigid at the edge of the room, torn between intervening and letting the storm run its course. His eyes darted nervously toward the door where shadows shifted, staff maybe, or worse, someone recording. The danger of discovery lurked closer with every breath. Jimin pushed again, voice ragged. Tell me, TAEHYUNG, tell me why he gets the version of you I prayed for, tell me why I wasn't enough. TAEHYUNG's voice cracked, breaking past the dam of restraint. Because you were too much. His words ripped through the air, loud, raw, and trembling with pain. You were fire, Jimin. You burned me alive every time you touched me, every time you smiled. You made me want everything I was never allowed to have, and I was terrified of it. The confession silenced the room for a heartbeat, as though even the city outside paused to listen. Jimin froze, the fury in his face colliding with the heartbreak in his chest. His lips parted, but no words came, only a sob that clawed its way out. You call that love? Jimin whispered, his voice breaking into shards. You call abandoning me because I loved you too much protection. TAEHYUNG's eyes glistened, but his voice grew desperate, louder, more frantic. Don't twist it. You think this is easy for me? Every night I've wanted to run to you, every night I've hated myself for staying away. But if I gave in, if I chose you, everything would come crashing down. The fans, the company, our dreams, everything. And what about me? Jimin roared back, slamming his fists against his chest. What about my dreams, my heart? Was I just a sacrifice you decided on without asking me? The tension snapped again, fiercer than before. Jungkook stepped forward, his voice sharp, cutting through the heat. Stop, both of you, do you realize what's happening? The walls aren't soundproof, the world is listening. If you keep this up, the truth won't stay hidden. Jimin spun on him, his eyes blazing. Then let them listen, let the world know that behind the perfect smiles and flawless stages we're bleeding, let them choke on the truth they worship from afar. The words were reckless, dangerous, but they carried a twisted kind of liberation. Taehyung's face paled, fear etching into every line. You don't know what you're saying. If this gets out, he trailed off, his voice trembling with an unspoken terror. Jungkook's hands curled into fists, his voice was quieter now but heavy with meaning. Maybe it's already too late. Both Jimin and Taehyung turned sharply to him, eyes narrowing. Jimin's voice cut like glass. What do you mean? Jungkook hesitated, guilt flashing across his face, his lips parting but struggling to form the words. Finally, he whispered, the fight earlier, it wasn't just leaked. Someone wanted it out. It's spreading everywhere, clips, theories, rumors. By tomorrow, the whole world will know something broken. Jimin staggered back, his face draining of color. No. Taehyung's chest tightened, his mind spinning with the catastrophic possibilities. His voice was hoarse. Who would do that? Jungkook's gaze dropped, shame pulling his shoulders down. I think it came from inside. The silence that followed was deafening, more suffocating than any scream. Betrayal layered upon betrayal, secrets stacking higher until the air itself trembled with the weight of them. Jimin's body shook, his rage finding new fuel. Inside, his laugh was bitter, almost unhinged. So it's not enough that you chose him over me, Taehyung. Now we're being torn apart from within. How much more do you expect me to take? Taehyung reached out instinctively, his voice pleading. Jimin, please. But Jimin recoiled violently, his eyes wild with grief and fury. Don't touch me, don't you dare pretend you still have the right. The rehearsal hall door rattled again, voices outside, louder this time, urgent, hungry. The world was already pressing in, waiting to feast on their destruction. And in that suffocating space, with hearts bleeding and trust collapsing, Jimin's voice cracked one final time. If the world wants a show, then let them watch us burn. The rehearsal hall was no longer a sanctuary. It was a cage, its mirrored walls reflecting not beauty or grace but raw, broken men stripped of everything but their pain. Outside, the voices grew louder, the shuffle of footsteps multiplying like vultures circling just beyond the thin wooden door. Jimin stood rigid, his chest heaving, his tear-stained face gleaming under the cruel fluorescent light. His voice shook with fury as he turned back to Taehyung, his words like daggers thrown without mercy. You broke me in private and now you'll let the world break me in public. Tell me, Taehyung, was this your plan all along, to watch me fall while you play the victim? Taehyung's eyes widened in shock, his lips parting in disbelief. How can you say that? I've done nothing but try to shield you. His voice cracked with desperation, the veins in his neck straining as he fought to make himself heard. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I wanted the world to see us like this, torn apart? Jimin's laugh came sharp, almost maniacal, a sound born not of humor but of devastation. Then why did you let it happen? Why didn't you fight for me, for us? His fists pounded against his chest as though trying to break free of the weight crushing him. You keep saying you were protecting me, but all you protected was your own fear. The words left Taehyung reeling, his breath shallow, his body trembling as though the truth was a poison eating away at him from the inside. You think I wasn't afraid every second of every day? You think I didn't wake up hating myself for choosing silence? I chose him because with him I could pretend to be normal, pretend to be safe. With you there was no pretending. With you, Jimin, it was too real. Jungkook flinched at the confession, his eyes darting nervously between them. His voice was sharp, cutting into the heated air. Stop this, both of you. If you keep tearing each other apart, you're not going to have anything left to save. The world outside is already feasting on this scandal. Every word you say now is another knife in your own chest. But Jimin ignored him, his voice rising again. Fueled by pain that refused to quiet. Too real? You're punishing me for loving you too much. You're punishing me because I didn't make it easy for you to keep pretending. He stepped closer, his tears blurring into fury, his face inches from Taehyung's. Say it to my face, Taehyung. Say you never loved me and I'll walk out that door right now. Taehyung's entire body froze, his lips parted, trembling, but no words came. The silence was louder than any scream, and Jimin's tears fell harder at the absence of an answer. His voice broke, a sob laced with venom. You can't say it because you did, and you still do. Taehyung's hand shot out, grabbing Jimin's wrist, his grip trembling but desperate. Yes, I love you, he confessed, his voice raw, hoarse, almost destroyed by the weight of the truth. I always have, but love isn't enough, not here, not for us. The room spun with the force of his words. Jimin staggered, his knees nearly buckling, as though the confession he had craved for so long was now the cruelest blow of all. His voice came out, a whisper, barely audible but piercing. Then why him, Taehyung? Why not me if you loved me? Taehyung's tears finally spilled, his body shaking as he held on tighter. Because loving you meant destroying you, and I couldn't live with that. The silence that followed was suffocating. Jimin's lips quivered, his chest convulsing with sobs that refused to be swallowed. His voice turned hollow, broken. You already destroyed me, the difference is now I have nothing left. Jungkook slammed his fist against the wall, the crack of impact echoing like thunder. Enough! Do you want the whole building to hear you? Do you want them to have proof of everything? Do you understand what this means for all of us? His voice trembled with rage and fear, his mask of calm finally shattering. Jimin turned to him, his expression twisted with anguish. You knew, Jungkook, you knew and you said nothing. Do you know what that makes you? A coward too. The accusation hit Jungkook like a blow. He stepped forward, his eyes blazing. You think I don't suffer, Jimin? You think I haven't been watching both of you destroy yourselves while I carry the weight of keeping it hidden? Do you think it doesn't kill me to stand in the middle protecting secrets that are eating me alive? His voice broke, his anger collapsing into grief. Don't call me a coward. I've been bleeding in silence so neither of you would be crucified. The room quaked under the force of three wounded souls clashing, their voices overlapping with pain, guilt, and rage. Outside, the roar of voices swelled, the sound of cameras clicking, the world closing in on them. Then, as though the universe demanded its cruelest twist, the door burst open. A manager stood there, pale and frantic, his phone glowing with headlines that spread like wildfire. His voice was cold, sharp, and final. It's over. The fight is everywhere, every news site, every feed. They've seen you, they've heard enough. There's no hiding it now. The words dropped like a guillotine, and for a moment the three of them stood frozen, their chests heaving, their hearts colliding with the inevitability of ruin. Jimin's sobs grew quieter but more devastating, his tears falling silently onto the mirrored floor. Taehyung's grip on his wrist loosened, his hand falling limply to his side. Jungkook's eyes dropped to the floor, guilt carving deep shadows into his face. The storm they had tried to keep locked within four walls had broken free, and outside the world was already tearing them apart piece by piece. The world outside no longer whispered, it roared. Headlines screamed betrayal, fan forums erupted with theories, and the air thickened with the weight of speculation. The once untouchable bond had become a spectacle, dissected by millions of eyes that claimed to know their truth but only fed on fragments. Inside the rehearsal hall, now a tomb of memories, the three stood on the brink of collapse, their breaths shallow, their voices raw from battles that words could no longer win. Jimin was the first to move. His body trembled as though every step forward required strength he no longer possessed. His face was streaked with dried tears, his eyes red, but his voice, when it came, was steadier than it had been in days. Do you hear them? He gestured toward the door where the muffled roar of voices rose and fell like a raging tide. They've already chosen their story, they'll never know ours. His lips quivered, but he forced the words out. And maybe that's the punishment we deserve. Taehyung's head hung low, his shoulders bent beneath the weight of secrets finally too heavy to carry. His voice broke, hoarse and fragile. Jimin, I never wanted this. I thought silence would save us. I thought if I took the blame, if I buried the truth, I could protect you. He lifted his gaze, his eyes shimmering with tears. But I only destroyed the one thing that mattered. Jimin's hands clenched at his sides, torn between rage and longing. His voice cracked as he spoke. You destroyed me, Taehyung, and yet... His chest rose and fell sharply, his words trembling like glass about to shatter. Part of me still wishes you'd held on instead of letting go. The silence that followed was unbearable, broken only by Jungkook's ragged exhale. He stepped forward, his expression torn with guilt. Enough, he said softly, though his voice carried an edge. We can't go back, what's done is done, but if we let this consume us, if we let them win, then everything we bled for means nothing. His eyes darted between them, pleading, don't let your love, whatever it was, whatever it still is, be remembered only as a scandal. Jimin turned to him, his gaze hollow. And how do you suggest we rewrite it? They've already written the ending for us. Jungkook shook his head. No, they've written their ending, but we still have the power to choose ours. The weight of his words lingered. Taehyung stepped closer, his voice breaking into a whisper almost prayer-like. Then let's end this on our terms. The three of them moved toward the stage that had once been their battlefield and sanctuary. The air smelled faintly of dust and sweat, of countless rehearsals etched into the floorboards. The roar of fans outside swelled, a wave ready to crash. For the first time they stood side by side, not as flawless idols but as fractured men, united by the truth that had torn them apart. Jimin closed his eyes, inhaling deeply, the memories flooding back, the laughter, the nights of quiet comfort, the fire of feelings too dangerous to name. His lips curved into the faintest of smiles, bittersweet and fragile. If this is the end, let it be honest. Taehyung's tears slid silently down his cheeks, but he nodded, his voice trembling. No more lies. Jungkook's voice cracked as he whispered, then let them see us not as the masks they worship but as who we really are. The door finally gave way, flooding the room with blinding light and the thunder of voices. Cameras flashed, questions were hurled like stones, and the storm they had feared swallowed them whole. But for the first time they did not run, they did not hide. Jimin's hand brushed against Taehyung's, not a grip, not a promise, but an acknowledgement of everything they had been and everything they had lost. Jungkook stood close, silent but unyielding, his presence a fragile anchor in the chaos. The world saw them fractured, exposed, no longer untouchable. And yet, in that moment, there was a strange kind of peace. Because though the curtain had fallen, though the story the fans wrote would never match the truth, they had chosen their ending together. And sometimes the bravest thing love can do is break.